Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking high tide stock. This is the most bullish weed stock that there is, in my opinion. I see massive growth over the next few months, and I'm going to get into exactly why. Currently, the stock is sitting at 39 cents. It has seen a massive run up over the past few weeks. I think the stock will continue and it has a lot more room to go. High Tide has been killing it in the Canadian market, and I think it's a matter of time before they transition over into the American market, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. Before we get to that content, I need you to do one thing and one thing only. Hit that sub button below and leave a thumbs up. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Tyler Wilson and I trade stocks every single day. I make videos not only about the stocks that I'm trading, but the upcoming and upside of potential stocks that I will be looking at and looking forward to in the future. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it. So number one, High Tide is sitting at 39 cents. Yes, this is a penny stock. Penny stocks aren't really my favorite thing to trade, but looking long term, I want to get into this sector, and I think High Tide mitigates a lot of risk, and I think there's a lot of upside coming up. They are trying to get uplisted into the Nasdaq. This is potentially very big news, but we could see something like Sundial where it has to raise a certain price target and hold there for X amount of days. So that is one thing to keep in note, but I do think they have a lot more upside than something like Sundial. The first thing to note, High Tide originally focuses on accessory and parts that go with cannabis products, right? They don't really focus on the cannabis. They do, but that's a different part of their business model. They have strategic partnerships with almost everyone. Aurora Cannabis, Afria, and then number three, they focus on the retail side of things of the cannabis by acquiring new companies very, very frequently. They currently have, I believe, 64 stores in Canada right now. It could be 65. I could be a little bit off there. These consist of Kush Bar, Meta Cannabis, New Leaf, Canna, and Valiant Distribution, a few others, but these are the primary big names. And then here's an actual timeline of all their milestones of the companies they've acquired and worked with. There's some pretty big names here. Aurora Cannabis was their biggest fulfillment order, which equivalent to $10 million. That was a pretty big deal for them. Once again, this is primarily all in Canada. You have 23% of their total revenue coming from America. They are currently focused on building out their brand in Ontario because there are such few retail locations there right now. So they're trying to grow and dominate there. So what they're doing right now is acquiring these small businesses and companies and then making their brand larger. Like I said, over the past few years, they've acquired over 66 total retail locations. They started off with just accessories and other products complementing these brands, and then they moved into this space as well. As you can see right here, they just turned net positive. This is the most bullish news of all. Most of these weed stocks are not turning positive. High Tide is. It's because of the way they're centering their business model. It's very different and diverse from most of the competition. I love what they're doing. Another thing we need to look at is their gross margins versus their operating expense. Now, this is pretty key in my opinion. We're seeing steady growth and decline on both of these, which is huge for the company and is what's leading them to become profitable right now. If they keep these numbers up, I don't doubt in my mind that they're going to keep growing rapidly. Over the next few months, we could easily see $1 per share, but we'll get into the chart here in a little bit. The major factors that we look in stocks, especially on my end, what I'm looking for consistently for long-term positions is growth. But under that, it has to be consistency. So when we look at consistency, if you can continue to be profitable and raise those margins and lower the negative ones, this is showing you that it's a great management of a company. Like I was going on about Sundial in my previous videos, I don't like their management. I don't think they have the correct business model. They're switching business models. This isn't the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
There's a reason High Tide isn't in the wholesaling of cannabis. They're in the wholesaling of the products behind cannabis and the accessories. Because what they're doing works tremendously. They're acquiring these retail locations and they're not worried about the wholesale side of that. They get the wholesale from other companies. This is honestly kind of genius. They found their niche and found what works for them, and it's working pretty consistently as we see from the charts. You look at two major investors that are worth noting, Afria and Aurora Cannabis. Yes, these two are invested into High Tide. For their dispensaries, these are actually some of their suppliers with these strategic partnerships. Like I said, they're lining up these deals pretty perfectly. But you know what? I'm not professional. Let's take it from a professional and see what he says about the shares.
Flin Flon, Manitoba. Go ahead, please.
My question today is around High Tide. It seems to me that the biggest issue has been in Ontario on the cannabis side and the bottleneck on distribution to the end customer. There's a couple ways to play it. These guys seem to have the best balance sheet, and wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Okay, High Tide.
Yeah, so High Tide's in the retail sector in Canada, and as the caller mentioned, you know, the real issue has been that there's not enough facilities or not enough retail locations in Ontario, and this obviously is going to change soon. High Tide's been in sort of the cannabis supply business for for quite some time now, and they've actually morphed. They're now the second largest. And they continue to do some interesting things. They've continued to build out stores with cash flow. They've got a number of licenses that they have facilities and licenses all approved, and they just need the cash to build those out. If they could come up with some sort of alternative financing source, then I think this could really start to accelerate. There's only a few of these retailers in Canada, and I would say that they're, as far as balance sheet goes, they're kind of right at the top. And as far as the management and their execution, they've done a fantastic job. So we don't own it right now. We have our eyes on it, but it's certainly a sector that we think is, going to expand here as Ontario grows out its number of retail locations.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed.
So overall, not too bad. But let's take a really quick look at the charts. So once again, if you're new to the channel, then you won't know what I'm about to say, but typically I do not enter stocks that pump up like this. I'm a very risk conservative trader. I like to enter at massive supports, and this stock honestly is not at a massive support. If anything, it's at a massive resistance. But why am I willing to enter at this level, and why did I enter on Friday? One, we have major news about the Nasdaq uplisting potentially being listed here, and I do believe it will because they are already killing it so hard in Canada. Also, they have backing from other weed producers, Aphria and Aurora Cannabis. That's pretty big news as well. We're also seeing lots and lots of volume kicking in here. Now, the volume is what has me almost the most bullish overall on the chart. As we break down to a shorter term time frame, you can actually see that we are breaking the overall trend down, breaking it out very strong as well, I might say. And typically when we get these moves, we start to see some real upside. And we really haven't even started really breaking out like we did before. Previously, we saw a massive leg up, some consolidation, and then we kept moving up. As you see here, we're sitting at the top of this overall block, which has me very, very bullish as well. The fact that we're getting a $39 push at the close. Now, the market is looking very bullish. The Nasdaq, SPX, they're all looking extremely strong. Don't get me wrong. Is there room for some downside? Could this actually dump down to 20 cents? Yes, it could, but I'd overall be fine with the long-term outlook of this stock. Like I'm saying, I see the value of this stock increasing rapidly. Once the legalization process starts here in the United States, likely they will have their projects done in Ontario, and then they'll start focusing solely on the United States and the growth here. I don't see the growth they do here to be as rapid as Canada, because Canada has had the legalization process for a little bit more time than us, and it's not legal here, so there. But they're going to be trying to acquire as many businesses, successful businesses, I might say, as possible for this retail space. And if you look at the brands that they own, they are very, very kind of luxurious and top end stuff. These aren't the cheaper side of things. Looking at the stock, like I said, I do see this breaking out come next week. I do see some more upside. Now, this isn't a short-term trade on my side. This is, I'm buying the stock and I'm holding it because I like this sector. I've never found a stock that I'm in love with in this sector. That's the really big thing here. I want to find a stock that I love. So with the fintech space, I got into BFT because I love PaySafe. I love what they're doing. I think they're attacking a kind of conservative but undergrown market. I believe it has a lot of room for growth, and that's what we love. I think that High Tide has massive room for growth. The leadership behind the company is also one thing that I'm in love with. The vision is very, very clear. They're very conservative, and they're not over risking on their product. They're not keeping cannabis. They don't wholesale the cannabis product. It's just the accessories, which is a huge must as well. Also, they're just fulfilling purchase orders, so they don't have to sit something on a shelf and just wait. They're just filling the orders for someone else. Once they make the product, it's already typically sold, unless they're providing it to their own business or retail locations, which they kind of have good numbers behind that as well. I know I didn't go super in depth on the chart. There's not too much we can look at. We're having, like I said, we're having massive legs up. But I think this continues. I think there's a lot of room to go up. Maybe a 50-cent play coming in the next few weeks. I don't want to get you guys too excited on the short-term side of things. This is a long-term pot stock, in my opinion. And I don't even like to call them a pot stock because they don't really sell cannabis. They're more on the retail side when it comes to cannabis. If you're new to the channel, I usually go way more in depth on the chart. That chart, honestly, there's not too much we can look at. I'm just showing you what I see, and this is a long-term play for me. I cannot emphasize that enough. Once you start seeing those legalization processes come around, this stock will soar. They're doing amazing in Canada. I recommend you do your own due diligence. Look at them for yourself. I promise you're going to see nothing but positives. But what are the biggest things for me here? One, they are net profitable at this moment. They turned their earnings in this quarter and were profitable. That's the biggest news there is here. They are a profitable weed company. Very, very rare in this sector. Two, they aren't focused on America at all yet. I mean, they made 23%, give or take, of their revenue from here, but they're not focused here. Once the legalization process happens here in America, I assume that number is going to bump up closer or above 50% of their total revenue. I think the market here is bigger, but they're focusing where they work at now. They're not trying to overspread or get overly eager. They're doing what they can now where they can, where it's 100% reliable. So if you're looking to invest in high tide, I think right now is the time before they make that move into America. Basically what you're betting is they're going to continue to do what they're doing in Canada and do it in America as well, but also continue to make profits in Canada. They're already doing it. Just maintain what they're doing in Canada and then move into America, manage the risk and over leveraging here in America. I think they're going to do it. I love the company. I am fully behind them. I'm in. That's going to wrap up this video, guys. If you got something else, make sure you're subscribed, leave that thumbs up, and turn the notifications on. I'm posting videos every single day. Have a good one, guys. Namaste.